Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
This live
Are you
talk.
ready?
Live
Are you
talk.
ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready?
And welcome to Live Talk. I am your host, Arthur Jeremiah, alongside my two co-hosts, Minister Samuel.
Hey, welcome back to Live Talk.
And my brother, Yike Ezekiel.
Peace. Greetings, everyone.
All right, before we do anything, we'll go to our general statement and disclaimer. General statement. Live Talk is proudly powered by TBS Goodwill, Builders of the Highway Foundation, and Men of Purpose. Together, we're bringing about awareness to the everyday challenges facing individuals, communities, and our nation. We tell our stories, listen to yours, and always respect different perspectives. Want to share your voice? Email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com to be a guest, or if you would like to contribute to our mission, purpose, go to livetalkorl.com to give a donation. Disclaimer. Information provided during this event and others to come does not constitute the official opinion of Live Talk or its affiliate entities. It is strongly recommended that viewers seek independent expert advice regarding any topics discussed, as legal requirements differ significantly across jurisdictions and are subject to frequent changes. If you have questions or concerns, you can always email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Facebook and or Instagram at Live Talk Orlando. All right, welcome back. We have to get that out of the way. My brothers, how are you doing, Minister?
Doing great here on a we gonna do February 7th, our Saturday. I think it's gonna be our transitioning show today, but good to be here.
Yes, sir. Ike Ezekiel, you doing, my brother?
I am doing terrific. It's a little cool these days, but all is well.
You know, if you don't know, the weather outside, just by the look, I know you see my brother. I know we didn't kind of script out of some clothes, but the time of this recording, it's cold outside. Just in case when we meet next week on the 7th, because this one you'll be viewing this show on the 7th, it may not be cold, but just know it's cold right now as we're doing this pre-recording. So happy Saturday for those of you that are tuning in. We're glad and we welcome you for tuning in today. Again, but this is a pre-recorded show. So as far as the interaction, it may not be there, but this is a show that you can definitely watch and comment on as well. All right. So just for you, family, let's go ahead and give you a rundown of the show today. First, we'll have the minister word of today. Right after that, we'll go to a short commercial break. And then we'll come back with our main topic. Our main topic today is Black History Unfiltered, the stories they didn't teach us about. And we'll come back then with another commercial break. And then we'll see what's on our brother Yike Ezekiel's mind when we go into our community news, the world news. And then we'll end with a motivational quote or reading from the host. So with no further ado, Minister, what is the word of today?
Okay, the word of today, we're gonna pick the word aware. We may have had it in our previous show, but we're going to bring it back forward, especially for today's class. Aware. And aware is defined as having knowledge or perception of a situation or fact. Aware is concerned and well informed about a particular situation or development. Having or showing realization, perception, or knowledge. Aware is knowing that something exists or having knowledge or experience of a particular thing. Some synonyms are mindful, conscious, sensible, watchful, wary, and cognizant. And we took a quote for today, and it's from South African anti-apartheid activist Bantu Stephen Biko. Some say Steve or Steve Biko, but it's really Stephen Biko. And he said that the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And in his writings, he notes that people without a history is like a vehicle without an engine.
Get that quote again.
He says the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed.
My brother, thank you for that word of today. We're going to get into this aware and being mindful. We're going to go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
At NOY Store, we bring culture, style, and wellness all in one place. Explore our collection of cultural apparel designed to inspire and connect. From t-shirts to polos, boldly tell your story. Need guidance on your journey? Check out our books written to inspire and support your spiritual, personal, and community growth. And give your body the care it deserves with our health and wellness products like natural toothpaste, soothing body butters, and more. We're always adding new products to empower your life so you can live with purpose and style. Visit NOYstore.com today, where culture, wellness, and inspiration come together. Shop at NOYstore.com.
Welcome back to Apopka, where the biggest problem is still why all the farmland turning into commercial real estate. Some of y'all be really pissed about these damn tourists from Orlando.
Of course I'm back at Rock Springs. I was just wondering why all the locals say the water's too hot, the rocks will cut your feet, and it's too dangerous. It seems beautiful to me.
This is Journey Christian Church, growing just as fast as the town. Just don't get lost in the 600 people or you'll have to pray your way out. We're at Harmon on the Lake and these apartments are so bougie. You cannot claim to have small town feel when it's all rich people that love to tell you they from New York.
I'd normally go to Halls on 5th, but got recommended Propagate Coffee with a side of Let's Talk Drama with all the town moms. Time to put the fake friend mask on.
Had to go back in time for this one. Remember when you got dragged here with your mom for the 6th time of the month? Little did you know you would miss this place. And now tax season right around the corner reminding us we grown up. Let's be honest, none of us ever know if we did it right. That's why I go to Scott & Associates accounting firm right here in Apopka.
Scott & Associates been doing taxes for 19 years, which means they're one of the only firms that explains it in English, not that IRS fear language.
They give every client $1 million audit defense. IRS pulls up, these guys pull up harder. They're the only way to go this season. Make the phone call. And remember, y'all, when it comes to taxes, you can always count on Scott. Peace.
All right. Make sure it's tax season, so make sure y'all go to Scott & Associates accounting firm because you can always count on Scott. Listen to the gorilla. All right, so every February, because we're getting into the month of February, it's our first show in the month of February. We hear the same Black history stories, right? The same names, the same moments. And while those stories matter, today we're asking a deeper question. What didn't they teach us? We're talking about the history that was erased, watered down, or skipped entirely. Not just the pain, but the brilliancy, the strategy, the ownership, the innovation, and more importantly, why knowing that history still matters right now. Before we get into that, I want to start personal though, because history didn't just shape textbooks, it shaped us. So, brothers, we're going to get a little personal. We're going to talk about how history and how we receive history. So when you think back to school or synagogue, church, or whatever, denomination, or even home, what version of Black history did you grow up learning about?
Now what? I'll start with this one.
Myself,
Go right ahead, brother.
I learned I learned the most basic version of it, as far as the Harriet Tubmans and that narrative that's been espoused in the school system since integration. And with that, at a very young age, it sufficed. It was great information, but it kept you on a level that didn't allow you to reach your full potential. It's like a plant that's only getting partial sunlight. It only will grow and have a positive tropism to a certain degree. So I really think that needs to be overhauled in the school system today, to be able to interject some of the Black innovators, some of the Black medical people, some of the Black people that made numerous inventions, imparted wisdom that allowed this country to grow to become a superpower. And in order to do that, it has to be taken out of what we call the historically Black colleges, so that it can be taught at the elementary stage. Because if I don't know that I have the potential to be a king, then I would never aspire to be a king. Because that type of knowledge was not poured into me in my young development that could put me on a path to have a desire to become that. So I think that the way that the education has been shaped and molded from the makers of it, they had an objective. When you create an educational system, you have an aim and you have a purpose for it. You have a curriculum that will guide the minds of those that embrace it toward the purpose for which it was created. And since we know the founders of this system didn't have the so-called Black man at the forefront of their thoughts and educational excellence, then we need to begin to question, what can we do to put us first? Because we are not learning about greatness, whether it's intellectual, dietary-wise, governmental-wise, because we don't believe as a Black people we can create our own government. We don't have the knowledge of how to create a government. We don't know how a Congress runs. We don't know how to set up a Wall Street. We don't even know how to set up educational system. And this is by design. We were taught to be followers. So I think that it's imperative that we begin to change and shift that. But it takes an event to occur for people to realize where they're at and that they do or may be missing a part of their self-evolution by not being taught their true history, as every other ethnic group is, that installs inside of their child a great desire to manifest what its community has already has a legacy toward. Because if we, as so-called black people, live up to the legacy that has been promoted concerning us, then we're looking at nothing but a life of crime, a life of poverty, a life of low-level education. And in this day and age, living in the information age, we definitely got to alter that.
Indeed. I just, before I turn it over to you, Minister, it's one of the things you had said in regards to education. I kind of thought about that for a second. I remember we had somewhat of our own education system when we were separate, but supposedly, quote, equal. And we had to somewhat teach our children at that particular time. And we got to a point where now we become integrated. We want to go to their schools. So I think it kind of took away from that. And I think another part of that is when trying to come together and create our own school system, one of the things I think we lack is humility. Like, you have to humble yourself. I mean, we have a lot of educators. We have a lot of great minds. But if you can't humble yourself to the next person so that we can grow as a community, it's going to be challenging for us to grow. So, Minister, I turn it over to you. I just kind of, when I hear us talk about education and some of the things that we have done and where we dropped the ball at, I just feel like it's something that we could have picked that ball up and really created something for ourselves and for our community children. But we have school right now, HBCUs, right? But do we pour the money into it? We got a lot of them right now. But we wait on the government to fund them. And then what the government do? They give them orders on what they want them to do. So it's like it's functioning, but it's functioning based off of what somebody else wants you to do. That's kind of going back to what you said, Brother Ika. It's like we have to have control of our own destiny. And if we don't, then somebody else is controlling them.
And that's it. It's good that you say that, because when you, I guess, talking about Black history that we grew up on, the word I will pick out of that first is history. Because if you break that down as his story,
right,
so it comes into who's telling that story.
Yes, sir.
And unfortunately, we got our version told by somebody else. Like, I mean, and most of us did learn Frederick Douglass, Tubman, post Martin Luther King, but it was watered down. Whereas, even if you didn't get it out of a book, if you grew up in an area where, if your grandparents told you about slavery, you probably get a different version of what you were being taught in school. And I know for me, like I remember clearly, because I can remember when I was affected when they started doing that transition. Because in elementary school, I went to an all-Black school. And I clearly remember, even up to third grade, our teachers were telling us, you got to be, it was either 3 times or 5 times, or you got to be 10 times better than your white counterpart to succeed in this world. They said that clearly is how the way they taught it. But then once we got bused, I used to be able to literally walk down the street and get to school. Now I'm catching a bus to a predominantly white school, a whole bunch of other Black kids that's in there. And there were Black teachers in there, white teachers, but those teachers couldn't teach, like they couldn't say that now in the classroom. And that's really something that we needed to hear. But it's like, can you imagine a white teacher standing up in front of a classroom with Black, white students in there and saying to the Black students, yeah, y'all got to be 5 times better than the white students. That's the truth.
Right.
But she can't say that.
Yes,
she won't say that.
Right.
And the black teacher couldn't say that, she would get fired. So a lot of it was by design. So yeah, the history was there, but the story that they told, it kind of watered it down. So truth is great, but when you get a little partial pieces of the truth, you kind of lacking in kind of like, that was like the quote, like, but he was saying the most powerful tool of the oppressor is, what he got in your mind. So when they controlling what's in your mind, they literally got to have the chains on you anymore if they can control the narrative and you can fulfill their wishes for them.
That's it. No, you're right. And you guys hit it right on point. Like Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King,
Frederick Douglass,
Rosa Parks. And just thinking about Rosa Parks, that was a great opportunity for us to learn and then create our own. Like and she probably know that her Rosa Parks, I don't think she's
I believe she's passed. I don't think she's no longer with us.
I'm thinking she probably know in her latter days the importance of what she did. Now she was tired and she wasn't moving. That it wasn't a movement. It was just a person that was fed up and like, whatever you're gonna do it. But she caused, she changed history. But it could have been for the betterment of us in a way that we could have took that opportunity, boycotted the buses, and got our own bus line. And we would have changed the trajectory of the black community forever if we would have did that. Because we had power. We didn't know how much power we had. Seems like you want to say something, Minister.
Yeah, because as we are, and as eloquent and as motivational as the I Dream of speech was and is, and I'm not taking anything away from it because it was a powerful speech. What they don't talk about, Martin, and then when you do your research and look up his other writings or his other words, he talked about us coming together and pooling our economic resources for black people. He talked about that. And people don't realize it's like they say it, but when he starts saying that, that's when he was assassinated. Right. Because he was saying, okay, he literally was, I'm paraphrasing, we could change our situation overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the voice and he had the power that Rosa Parks, let's start on bus line. Take all of your money out their banks and let's put it in our own banks. Take all of your money out them insurance companies and put it. That's the way he was talking. And that's what he was assassinated for. But that part of his message, we don't hear.
Right. Because what we started doing when we start boycotting, what we start carpooling.
Yep.
So we created the Uber and the Lyft, and they stole a lot of that from us. We started a lot of this here. Because we had to, of course, support whomever vehicle it was that was taking us to work and what have you. We had to get gas for it, etc. So it was something that we created and started that we didn't know that existed at that time. We wasn't conscious of it. And soon the bus line started back, rolling. There we were back on the buses again.
Because they wanted that money back.
Right.
See, they understand economics.
Mm-hmm. Man, I just, another thing, and I don't know if you brothers and I don't think they're doing this today in elementary school, where they're playing Roots. I actually, and when I think back, I say, we actually watch Roots in classroom. Did any one of you brothers get the opportunity, like in elementary school, to watch Roots where they played that?
I probably was out of elementary school when Roots came out, but what I can say is Roots put a different, they whitewashed slavery. Mm-hmm. They talked about slavery and you knew it was not a good thing. Don't use that. See, they wrote slavery in as if it was, and I'm being very careful with my words. Slavery was not a good thing. That's the truth. slavery was horrific. Roots shined a light on how bad it was. I want to say I might have been in the junior high school, and Roots got some fights started. When Roots came, all of a sudden it was like, oh, hell no. Because you said slavery wasn't good.
You didn't say how horrible it was.
You ain't say how horrible it was. You ain't say how bad it was. And what we on a show, so I'm gonna keep it PG. You didn't say how bad these folk treated us. Roots showed they show all of it, but they showed a lot of it. And they had to shut it down because a lot of white kids was having issues. A lot of black kids was having issues with their white counterparts.
Yeah.
Especially those who wanted to see, they was flying them rubber flags then and thought that it was funny. And a lot of us didn't find that it's funny. And we was going to take out some retribution on you that day. And so they kind of had to shut it down. See, in elementary, it might be so bad, but see, with us in middle school and I was in high school, there was some real fights going on. You open your mouth. No, they say 1800s. You finna wear a real behind whooping because it shined the light on how bad it was.
No, I mean it really taught me something at that time. And like you say, it did bring something out of you emotionally that could have led to you, be in jail, due to some of the things that you were seeing there. But I was showing it to my grandchildren, and one of my grandsons said, "Oh, heck no, call me no N-word." And I was saying to myself, like, well, you ain't but 11. You don't even know the significance of that. You don't even know, like, I mean, but it's crazy, like, because, they can sing in songs and they'll say that like it ain't nothing. But, to hear that, it still seemed like it resonates in a different way. And I was shocked to kind of hear him respond like that when the guy called the black person that word. And it was like, I'm just watching them, and their response and their reactions, and it was just something different. But I went through every part, like showing them, of course, this is what happened. I mean, in the Bible, it talks about them. They're going to, we'll be called bywords and proverbs and all these different types of things. And we just have to show them, teach them the history of, us from I would say, not just standard here in America, but going back a little further and what happened to us and why we're in the condition that we're in and why we're called what we're called, but we don't have to accept that. We have to come into the knowledge of who we are. Ezekiel, I know you, just in case you had some to chime in on.
I mean, for me, it wasn't roots. I didn't see that till I was grown.
Mm-hmm.
It was something called Mississippi Burning.
Okay.
And it was practically just the Klan doing what they was doing. So that instilled that hatred into you. And that, as like I alluded to, created unnecessary fights and unnecessary drama between the races. Even though you had read historical books, you had read about the slaveries in school that's being taught, the visual aspect of it was something totally different because, when everybody reads according to their intellect, they get a mental picture from what they're reading. But when Hollywood puts it on the screen, everybody gets the same picture. And it affects everybody differently. And if you don't, I know for me, it was like, okay, this occurred, but how did they get in that position in the first place? How did we get in the position that we was in? Those were immediate questions that popped into my head. But I had no outlet to be able to find that the answer to that. You know, it's like everywhere you looked at that age, it was just like, okay, the Anglo-Saxons are in power, and they've always been in power since the Roman days. And that's just the way it is. Because there wasn't many books like there are now that taught the history of black people outside of America. You know, one of the most enlightening books that I read at a young age was by an author named J.A. Rogers. He has a 2-volume book called Great Men of Color. And it walks you through history about great black men and their feats and accomplishments. And it was more than being on the block or being an entertainer or a rapper or athlete. It showed the intellectual part of black people, how they ran kingdoms, communities. So it gave you something to aspire to outside of the steady diet that America had been feeding me at that age. And that prompted the desire to want more than what America was offering. But again, there was no outlet to make that a reality.
Yeah. Because even when we think about like coming up and when we had to do like research like Black History Month, and they tell you to do essay or something on a black figure, black history, and then they give you a list of who they want you to, do the research on. You remember that, Aaron? You're looking at me. Because I remember you showing me that, and I'm talking to my son who was behind the scenes. He's the engineer. But I remember him coming to me, and he's showing me like this list, and I'm like, okay, there are other prominent Black leaders and that contributed to our growth as a people. Won't you do something on one of them? But he was limited to the list that he had. So the question becomes, who then is, I would say, deciding, what history is taught? Because go ahead, sir.
That's a great question. And researchers found out that what history gets taught in America is predicated on the state. And the state wills or yields most power to the city and the school itself. So the city would purchase books. So the author of books who are lobbied by big corporations and everything, they are the ones that influence the texts that are being written because of the money that they're throwing at these authors to show their company or their way of life in a greater light. So now when they create this book that favors these particular companies' point of view, then the school system gets it, and then they give that curriculum to the teachers and tell them this is how we wanted it presented. And then each particular teacher, according to their talent, will teach it in the manner that they are going to teach it. So a lot of what gets put into history is based on politics. There is no federal mandate that says this has to be taught. So it's not universal. And this is why you could be in Florida and learn a totally different history than the people in California. And the problem with that is, if it's not universal, it's according to what's being taught where you at. And that definitely needs to change.
And that goes to one of the points that you made about HBCUs. Believe it or not, now at a lot of the HBCUs and predominantly black colleges, they have now a wealth of knowledge on our history. The only issue is now you're giving it this, they're getting this at a post-secondary level of education, meaning you have to be pursuing a higher level of education before you even get that. When your history should really be taught to you at elementary school.
Right.
And now they're trying to tell the black colleges and universities what they can and can't teach. So if the states are teaching basically this watered down version, that's what the youth are going to get. So if you're not teaching it at home, and unfortunately, if you don't have the resources at home, they're going to get that watered down version. And that version was based on kind of what it's not federal, but what this country was supposed to be founded on these so-called Christian values. But the Christian values that it was founded on, slavery was okay. So it was okay to teach that version. And that's what gets taught. It's not saying it out loud, but it's like, the Christian values that slavery was okay. Because if it wasn't, there would have been no slaves. So don't tell me you go to church and you believe in God, but the government, from the federal down to the state, that's what they believed. Yet you were practicing slavery. We talking about the Bible, but it's a whole lot of history in that book that was watered down or talked about in an inappropriate fashion. So, for a young mind, it's really hard to get to the truth when you're being given it in pieces and parts that are watered down and meant to benefit a system. Like, slavery, we built this country. We were here to build this country up. So why would you can't teach your slaves something in opposition, because they're not going to help you build it up. And now that it's built, you want to change the history as if it never happened.
Right.
You remember a couple of years ago, the governor DeSantis, he made that decree about the black history of slavery not being taught. He said it wasn't relevant today. So that goes to show you that, again, the politics determine what the children are being taught. Because if these children are now being taught that there was no such thing as slavery, then we know if you forget your history, you're subject to repeating.
Yeah.
And this is what's going on now. We're seeing whitewash our contributions to the development of this country. And now our children, and as you pointed out, if I have to wait till I hit college level, in which we know that's a very small amount of so-called black men in America.
Very important what he just said.
Right.
And even with the amount, how many of them attend these HB colleges, and the HB colleges, who are funding them? And if I'm funding you, then again, I have some say-so on what your curriculum is. And that's the problem. So until we can get your own educational system funded by your own, exclusively for your own, then our children in Lauderdale will get a different history than the children in Orlando, who are going to get something different than the children in Jacksonville, because it's a city by city thing. And therefore that lets you know in and of itself that the educational system is not equal, because it's teaching different things according to where you live at. So one city may get taught economics over everything else. Another city may be getting taught PE over everything else. So this is why it's imperative, as one of the people in our historical figures that's mentioned but never in depth, it's the Honorable Marcus Garvey. The program that he was trying to implement to get us on the same page. And this is where communities have to come together and decide, because the communities have a vote on what their children are being taught. But if we don't come together and demand that this particular curriculum be implemented in the school system that my children or grandchildren are going to be educated in, then that means we standing on the sideline and we agreeing with what's being taught, which means you have no room to complain, because you're doing nothing to change your condition. You're waiting on the benevolence of somebody beating you on to get tired, instead of moving out the way or grabbing that belt.
Yeah, so now great points, because when we talk about, one of the things that brothers mentioned, when you put in history in books, which, they from the beginning, they taught us not to read. They threatened us. We can lose our life if we was to be caught reading anything. So when you have a mindset like that, not to read, it's going to be hard for you to find out, your true history, knowing that you can't read. Or, and even now today, we don't pick up books to read. I mean, thank goodness for, some of the social media, when you're talking about YouTube and some of those things, for people that are more visual or learners, they can get information like that. But up until this point, you ain't have a lot of that was available. So history now is like, it's little to none that you would know and know how to raise your child. So now, because I always talk to my I'm at a point where I'm talking to my grandchildren now. And we always talk about MOP, understanding that through the prison pipeline. That's still a real thing. That haven't changed. It's real. And we see it, every day. When we look at the prison system, we look at over 50% of us are in the prison system, but we only make up, 13% of this population. So we know that's real. The numbers don't lie. They speak for themselves. So when we think about this type of thing, we have to teach our history. We have to have more mentors to teach our children our history. So I guess that get back to, one of the things that, as we're talking about, how they try to keep us in line with what history they want us to know, why do we believe that they take a lot of the Black innovators out of the mix? Why do they erase some of the Black innovators? What are some of the reasons behind that? What y'all think about that?
Oh, simple. Again, if I'm in power and I need my way of thinking to be mass produced without any obstructions or impediments from those that I want to rule over and to see my vision, then I have to erase any and all facts, information, visuals that you may have as a people that support your own greatness. And I have to replace that with myself. So if you had an abundance of Black thinkers, innovators, doctors, lawyers, any fields that use wisdom, I'm going to erase that immediately and replace it with my own people. So the visuals you get will look like me. The books you read will look like me, will be written by me. And once I get you to see me as the leader, as the hero, as the wise one, then it's simple for me to be able to carry out my plans with you. It's just like the brother quoted earlier. When I have the minds of the people and can shape and mold that mind, then I can make you into whatever I choose you to be. So I have to first eradicate any semblance of black excellence in any field. And this is why when I begin to write history, I simply whitewash you on out the picture as if you never existed. I make it to where the only information you can go look up will have nothing but me in it. This is why you will never be able to begin to think independently of me, because everywhere you look, I want you to have the defeatist mentality that I am the supreme one and there's no way around it. So you just gonna get in and try to get your slice of the pie instead of having the ambition to want the whole pie. So it's mandatory that the first thing any conquering nation does when it subdues the loser of a war is they wipe out any remnants of self-respect, self-help from among that people. And they replace all images with themselves, makes them the rulers. So that when your children look up, they look up to the winner as the standard of excellence and not themselves. And we see that especially in a religious manner that we have embraced here in America. We are the only people on the planet that have images of a savior, a redeemer, or a liberator that looks nothing like us.
Yeah, and I know, Minister, you always say the victor tell the story.
The victor, his story becomes history. That's his story, his version. Whether it's truthful or not, but it's his version, so now it becomes the truth. Like, you look in just present history, like the brother was saying, go back to Marcus Garvey, and you move forward to Elijah Muhammad. You move forward to the Honorable Yahweh ben Yahweh. All three should be filled with our history, but they're almost erased, or if you can find them, they're going to whitewash it and find something negative about the movement, about the growth, about the positivity, and then replace it with someone else. So you have nothing that looks like you that can be great. The only thing you look for, like my brother says, salvation is, like I was saying, a Christian nation. But then you put a portrait of someone for people to worship as a savior. But if you do any basic study in history, you'll find out that he didn't look like that. He wouldn't have appeared that way. And then if we're going to write the history, why don't we write him in so that he looks like us? That's because we've been so watered down, whitewashed and brainwashed to believe that the only way we can succeed, the only way we can move forward is in something other than ourselves. And that was like you by this, because we didn't want you to learn how to read. We didn't want you to read the Bible. You couldn't pick it up. Or cut your tongue off, cut your fingers off. Yet, so when you finally do get to read it, we don't replace with something that's his story, his version.
Because you go back even if you think about it, it's a lot of things that we created even then. When it even comes to the gun, you know, they had guns come over, but we helped, you know, manufacture it in a way that now it's a better product. Did we get any credit for it? No, you're not going to get any credit for it because they created patterns and copyrights and all these things here. So they get the brilliancy of your mind, they patent it, that now they become the creators of it. But the person that actually was behind it is erased, not even thought about anymore. So it's just a lot of those things that we, I think the first we talked about Marion Croak, Voice over IP. She created Voice over IP, the Zoom that we're on today. Yes. And she's an engineer. And we talked about that in one of our shows and how, she brought that brilliancy. And thankful enough, she got a lot of patents, and we was very proud of that, because that was one of the things that I think we missed, as a people coming up, because we're brilliant, but they created this system that now they can steal, they can steal stuff from you. So it was that type of thing that I think that they came up with, that now try to put themselves at this level as far as, we think that they created this, or they did this, they did that. So now we're looking at them, with high esteem because of that. And we're looking down at ourselves as if we didn't create anything, which we were the creators of majority of the things that have been created. So I think, first and foremost, knowledge. Knowledge is just knowing how to protect yourself, protect whatever, your creative mind, your, what we call it, property, intellectual property, and just the power behind using that. So I think we have to get to that point where we, take that leadership role and understand what that looks like, and then teach it within our community, teach it to our children. So, as they grow, they understand what they have as far as the power to generate certain things and to protect their intellectual property as well. But just to continue on, because we're talking about Black history, we know Black history is not only about us learning about slavery. We should also learn about the richness, and we're talking about it a little bit, the richness of our culture. So why do we learn more about slavery than the history or presence of Black wealth? Because we know we had a lot of that, but they get us caught up on just slavery, in my opinion, that now we look at this pitiful people, and we asking and needing something, opposed to understanding that we are rich. We're rich, in many different ways. Go right ahead, sir.
It's because the trick behind the slavery and that part of the history is, at least for us, you almost push it as if our history on the planet began with slavery. So when you, and if you think you're the worst, you're on the bottom of the barrel, you have nothing. It's like, that's what you come from. So you have people say, well, I want to move forward and I want to run from that. And then you have this lie about where the slaves actually come from and who they were. And when you don't know it, so it's like, you really don't want to own that as your slavery. But other people can talk about their family and go back 500,000 years. But it's in they can go back to this family crest that they had. Yet our history begins at slavery. And because of what they did with slavery is totally cut us off from our history. So you literally can't get to it without taking a leap out of their book and then going back to find out that we had a rich history prior to slavery. But it gives you the idea that you didn't exist before slavery, almost as if you were created from that.
Right.
And that's as far as you can go back. And so everything has to move forward. But in order to truly move forward, you got to know where you come from. And we weren't taught where we came from. So how can we know where we're going when we don't know?
Yes, sir. Ikaziki, comment on that?
Well, the school curriculums, again, are built to be safe, not to speak the truth. Racism has been systematically institutionalized in the educational system. And with that right there, it promoted that you speak of a slave's accomplishments at no point. Because again, if you're a slave, you don't get credit for anything. Slaves are non-thinking creatures. So why would I tell the world that Benjamin Banneker designed the White House and the layout of it with a wheel within the wheel? Because that's, again, to begin to promote that, hey, y'all can think. Y'all are wise people. And this is what supposed to be subject to little or no wisdom for this group of people. And then you have to take, America's a capitalistic society. So, as we know, they got rich off of our manual labor. So, they're not going to give you any type of credit, just like they didn't give you any type of payment for that manual labor. Two, this lack of wisdom allows you to look up not only to the entertainers, Hollywood figures, athletes as role models. And these skill sets right here are predominantly physical. So we back to the slave mentality to be physically strong but mentally weak. So we have to understand that America was not created to make the so-called black man of America equal with them. They didn't bring you over here to create slavery, to make you an equal. As you alluded to earlier, they read a prophecy, they believe they could fulfill that prophecy, and they believe in actually doing everything they could to fulfill it and wiping out the knowledge of self. So when a people is without their history, you're without the key component to the knowledge of self. And without the knowledge of self in this world right here, then you are like a ship that's in the middle of the seas and it's just being tossed to and fro depending upon which direction the wind blows. So it's like I was saying, depending on where you raised at, that's the education that you get. So if you start in Florida, or you're like one of those military children that bounce around from different states, then you're going to be getting a fragmented wisdom wherever you landing at. That may be in total opposition of what you previously learned. And your history comes down to the music, it comes down to your fashion, it even comes down to your language. So in order to keep you as a subservient people, I had to keep that era of self-wisdom buried. And they have did an awesome job at that.
So that keeps us from discovering our true wealth.
Correct.
That's, that's truly what's happening. Well, we are on time. Okay. When we talk about, because one of the things we do when it comes to equality, what we want to do, we want to picket and hold signs up. So why is resistance taught but not strategy? In other words, why do we fight the system for equality rather than coming up with ways to build around us? We got millionaires now, billionaires. We never been a poor people. We've always been a rich people. But now we can see it. We talk about entertainers and athletes. So why is that resistance instead of strategy not being something that we're coming?
I don't think it's so much as resistance. I think it's more that it's a system. And it simply has been so entrenched in our minds that we don't realize is there. It has become habitual behavior, so we're functioning on autopilot. Every now and then, like with events with the Black Lives Matter, we realize that something is wrong, but it's not giving enough fuel to be able to become a new system. It's spoke about for a moment and then it's gone. We live in a fast-paced world, so events can be the hot topic in the news today, and by tomorrow, something else has replaced it. So this is what's going on. We hear about Black History during Black History Month. But as soon as that month is over with, it's back to normal. Nobody's still pushing that same narrative to a degree to where we can start making some lasting changes. And until we do that right there, then it'll stay just a month. Because how long has it been just a month? It should have moved up to a month and a week by now.
But even when you talk about Black Lives Matter, which was created like a movement, right? Why was it? I mean, yeah, we highlighted some things, but what was the strategy behind it? Like, why didn't we come together? I mean, we built up a lot of, energy behind it, and it drew a lot of attention from prominent people. From some people that talked against it, but from some prominent people it drew attention from. But still no strategy, Minister.
It's because it actually has a movement has to have action and one of you all mentioned it, nationhood. That part about education where we're lacking, and that needs to be taught, like, not just at home. You can teach it at home, but it needs to be in the educational system about community. And then from community, you expand out. But we taught to integrate, and then when we integrate, we pull from ourselves. That's why you can get some Black millionaires, but to be truly wealthy, we got to be wealthy. And that begins with working one another. And see, that's where it gets pulled. Like I'll go back. If you look at movement, if you look at Elijah Muhammad, Yahweh bin Yahweh, it wasn't a protest, it was a movement that was moving the people forward. We have to be conscious that we live in a system that doesn't want to see those movements. So in each instance, the government goes against the movement to stop the people. And even with Black Lives Matter, it was moving, but now they can use the political and what you can, not just white people will be against it, but they'll put things that get Black people being against Black people and watch it implode. Because the reason, like when Martin was marching, they were marching for a reason to make a change. Now it's like we've been taught that just to march and hold up a sign, but there has to be an end game of what? And the part that we lack is that we miss the fact that we are we are the change. I heard somebody say, if we looking for our oppressor to get tired of whipping us, that's not change. You got to either take the belt, stop taking the whipping, and make a change. That's where that education is so important, and it's lacking because other groups of people, nationalities of people, they come and they work together as a community to make a difference. We have been taught, unfortunately, not to work together, but we leave our community. And then when we leave our community, especially if we're wealthy, now we just took a whole lot of wealth out of our community. Well, other communities, when they get a whole lot of wealth, they infuse it back into their community and make their community better. Like the millionaires you're talking about. Imagine if they stayed in the community that they were. How wealthy that community would be. But because we're in a capitalist society, like when we talk about culture, and we talk about music, talk about the way we dress, we've been taught success is that we're looking for a different form of success. Individual success versus community, national, or what's the success for all of us actually look like?
But you see some of us get some money and we'll have animosity against each other. We're trying to figure out, I'm gonna get the better car than he has, and you're conflicting against one another, so you can't accomplish anything. And then the little bit that you do isn't coming from the heart; it's for show. It's a show that I got a charitable organization that I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm giving chickens out every Tuesday, I'm doing dinners this week, and in my opinion, I think a lot of that's for show. It ain't for coming truly from the heart. And then and the other side of that is because they're that tax bracket that they need to be spending some money, so they're trying to get a write-off too. So we have to do things genuinely to build our community. And I guarantee you, whomever may be listening to this, if you're an entertainer, actor, what have you, you making money, you can't tell me I'm telling a lie, because I think that's largely due to one trying to get a write-off or what have you. But when we start to act genuinely from the heart and we humble ourselves, I think I talked about this a little earlier, because humbling yourself allow for you to receive your brother who's in that same tax bracket, not compete against them and want to have something greater than them, but to say like, hey, how can we pool our resources and better the communities that we grew up in? Genuinely,
And see, we have some really complex issues, and they can be dealt with, but it takes time, it takes money, and it takes some understanding. Like we talk about reparations. Should we give reparations? Certainly, ancestors of slaves should get reparations. But what does that look like?
Right.
What does that look like? Because if you do the mathematics of it, the reason other people look at it, they know it would literally bankrupt the country. And more debt. Dave Chappelle did the skit. He illustrated it so humorously, but he put it right on point, because what would it do to give all of that money to somebody that don't know? And it was a beautiful illustration.
And gave it right back to him.
Give it right back to him. So today they went down, and then tomorrow they went up 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion, what it really needs to look like, it needs to look like education, investment in education. Like we need a real education. It needs to be in housing, and it needs to be in some therapy and treatment.
Oh boy, you hit it right on the head.
Because as a people, we need, it's like if you go through trauma, and I hate to use this illustration, but it's like a woman who's a victim of a sexual assault, that's trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And she really needs you need treatment, you need counseling to be able to understand and move past that trauma. We suffer from massive trauma. And because we can go buy the car we want, date the girl, the guy that we want, we don't think we got trauma. But when I look at you and see your car, I look at him and see his business, what you were talking about, that's trauma. We haven't got past that trauma of slavery and the education of that. And as long as that stigma is there, it'll take 1,000 years before we get, because that's a real trauma that needs to be addressed on how to move forward. And to pretend that it doesn't exist, like you can tell an alcoholic if he say, I'm not an alcoholic, you never go get fixed until you can accept it. We need to accept as a people, I don't care how rich you are, we got real trauma. We need to know. deal with that trauma forward, and it's not being addressed.
I love that. We're in that segment with that statement right there. Beautiful said. All right, we're going to go to a commercial break, and we're going to transition a little bit.
Because Scott & Associates always treats me like family, I refer my family to them. So when preparing for my taxes, and I know exactly what to bring in coming in, it makes the process so much easier. Anyone should hire Scott & Associates because they are professional, respectful, and very knowledgeable. And with all of my heart, I can always count on them.
All right, welcome back. We are transitioning. However, we're still talking about, because we're in Black History, we got to talk about an unsung Black leader. And today we're just going to highlight someone that we know a lot of people don't know about. And the little bit that they do know is either misconstrued or brought to them by the media in a negative way. And we want to highlight this person because we want people to see, we want our audience to see, and those that come back and review this here, the good works of this individual. So, and the person we're going to be talking about is L.I.V.E Ben Yahweh, who was born as Hewlett Mitchell in 1935, in October 27, 1935, in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. He later on became the founder of the Nation of Yahweh as the most honorable, known to me as the most honorable L.I.V.E Ben Yahweh. And a lot of people don't know about his works and how he contributed to the Black community. But we're going to show you today a little bit of those works. So let's play that clip.
I am mother of L.I.V.E Ben Yahweh. I love you, Junior. You were my first, and I love you. L.I.V.E Ben Yahweh.
Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, Beth Nun Sophie, Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, L.I.V.E Ben Yahweh, is the spiritual leader of the nation of Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, Yahweh. In 1979, he came to Miami, Florida, under a vow of poverty, with little more than the clothes on his back, with a sincere determination to educate people concerning the laws of God, Yud-Heh-Wav-Heh, Yahweh, and to build a social economic program designed to move the so-called blacks from poverty to riches.
But I have seen what he has done. I'm from Miami, Florida. Prior to the arrival of L.I.V.E Ben Yahweh in Miami, every year, literally every year in Miami, Florida, there were riots. Black people were taken to the streets. They were frustrated, and they were taking out their frustrations in riots. I've seen buildings burned. I've seen looting. I've seen lives taken, people killed by police and people killed by one another, utter chaos. And then along comes L.I.V.E Ben Yahweh. And these same brothers and sisters who were on the street, frustrated, out of work, just frustrated with life itself. This brother came along, and I've seen him working in the streets, urging brothers to come in. First of all, recognize God, and recognize God can help you. And I've seen the brothers come in and clean themselves up and make boys, men out of boys. And I've seen him make women out of street women. So I can see a positive work that Brother L.I.V.E Ben Yahweh has done in Miami, Florida.
I have seen him take a person with feet of clay, his whole body being clay, and I have seen this man work a miracle. He makes that person into a real person with pride who stands up and looks you in the eye and can recite from Shakespeare, from the Bible, from scientific publications. This man is an educator.
I have found that following the principles of Yahweh had caused me to be a wise woman instead of a fool. And I am forever grateful because he have taught me the laws of Yahweh.
So, in addition to being moral and in addition to being principled, the Yahwehs have shown blacks in South Florida that through working together and coming together in a common bond, that we can, as a race, move forward.
For 10 long years, Yahweh ben Yahweh's followers, drawn together by their common belief in Yahweh, the God of the Bible, joined hands with Yahweh ben Yahweh and built a wholesome community based upon biblical principles of moral behavior, family values, education, self-esteem, and brotherly love. He came to Miami, Florida, a city known for its community unrest and social division. And in spite of it all, Yahweh ben Yahweh and his followers emerged united together, pooled their resources, and developed an economic empire worth millions. Nationwide, through the spiritual leadership of Yahweh ben Yahweh, the nation of Yahweh prospered. The businesses included a manufacturing plant, convention center, hotels and motels, bus lines, supermarkets, a publishing company, apartment buildings, and a national school system to rescue the children.
Years ago, the only blacks allowed on Miami Beach were servants and gardeners who had special passes. But now Yahweh ben Yahweh owns part of that beach, and that in Miami means money and power.
Yahweh ben Yahweh had done certain things that made him a target. That he was a black man and he was getting political power. His race, combined with his growing economic and political base, made him a prime target. That alone put him under scrutiny.
Who is this man, Yahweh ben Yahweh?
Sparkling white buildings are one trademark of Yahweh Developments. Many in the economically depressed neighborhoods where they operate say lowered crime rates are another.
It was a lot of street crimes, a lot of prostitution, drug activity, and any place there, it gets cleaned up.
We're very pleased to present to you the Whitney M. Young Jr. Memorial Humanitarian Award in Economic Development, presented to Yahweh ben Yahweh.
And I would like to thank all of you of our community of all races, creeds, and colors. I love you all for a better Miami. Thank you.
Yahweh ben Yahweh is received by men and women of renowned power, wealth, and influence, such as Ben Chavis, civil rights activist, syndicated columnist, and president of the NAACP. Actor, singer, and songwriter Philip Michael Thomas, who starred in the major motion picture Sparkle and the hit TV series Miami Vice. The singer Leona Mitchell. Whitney Mayo of the hit TV series Sanford & Son, better known as Grady. Marla Gibbs of the hit TV series 227 and The Jeffersons. And Dorothy Heights, president of the National Council of Negro Women.
Yahweh Ben Yahweh took that, which was considered works of art, and created true masterpieces. These masterpieces are the aesthetic minds of Yahweh's University, and they believe that one can create beauty in life by circumfusing life with beauty. This extreme degree of mental resplendency, exquisiteness, and liveliness in a university has caused me to be the competent, able, proficient, efficient, and mentally puissant entity that stands before you this day.
Consider what time it is. And since it is now time for you to take over and rule, and I'm giving you positions of rulership in our kingdom, I'm giving every one of you a position of rulership. You're going to be running a $5 million store enterprise, each of you being the manager of your own business within that store. And since I understand the value of time and I don't want you to be late, then I have a very special gift for each one of you. See? Let me see what it is.
Oh.
Which is a gold watch.
All right. I mean, that was, and I know the sound may not have come through, and I'm just now listening, hearing the sound. The sound could have been better, but the whole point was to show you someone that has contributed greatly to our community, to the Black community, and have raised up minds that at one point in time you would look at as being downtrodden or uneducated. And he raised up the minds of the people that truly came into, his presence. And it was a change that happened in Miami that many people, as you've seen, talked about. The change in the community, the cleanup of the community was the first Black man to own part of South Beach. Not only did he own that now, let me just share this here. Those that came into the nation, those that was a part of receiving him in the nation, and were just receiving God, owned it. So it wasn't about him. He was very selfless, opposed to being selfish. And this was, and it goes back to, Minister, what you're saying when we talk about the movement. We talk about Marcus Garvey, Elijah Muhammad, and there's only two movements prior to that. He's the most modern, display of a movement since that time. I don't know any other at this point in time. I think that's the closest one to what we have right now today. And just understanding that, I believe it's very important. We're in Black History Month. We need to know about those who contributed to our community and just our upliftment as a people.
Yeah, no, when you talk about present day, it's like, it's phenomenal what Yahweh did when you consider just taking into context that Black folks weren't allowed on Miami.
Right.
You were not allowed.
Right.
And we're talking in the 70s.
Right.
That you were maybe a gardener, somebody doing a menial labor. Yahweh Ben Yahweh bought and owned part of that beach and put a hotel that received international guests from around the world, created jobs for hundreds of Black people, and a time when the government could not create jobs in the communities where, let's see, back in Miami, if you do your research on Duffy, but it was hard, shooting innocent Black people, police officers, and people just were like, we tired of this. And so Miami was a hotbed of, you do this to us, we go burn it down. But the problem is you mad, so you burn down your own community. You're hurt and kill some white folk, but then they're turning around and kill more of you. And mine was like, they couldn't handle it. It's here come Yahweh ben Yahweh in the communities where you said it was a waste. Buildings that were boarded up. Like some of the speakers in it, you had one place that were prostitutes and drug havens. Here come Yahweh ben Yahweh would turn around and take the property and the community that you said nothing could be done, and then make that a community that was a haven. Take it, build it, and renovate it, and make it so immaculate, and you could be so comfortable that you could sleep with your door unlocked. That's how safe it was. Places that used to be drug havens or prostitution, all of a sudden now they're part of the Chamber of Miami, welcoming guests from around the world, bringing tax dollars and a base back to the community. It's like the stuff that Yahweh ben Yahweh did was phenomenal, but it's not talked about because we have a government that's unfortunate, specifically in the FBI, who's their part of their mantra, and I'm sure it still is the FBI's actions are to disrupt and discredit Black organizations. That's what, and they did that from with Garvey. They just went after him for mail fraud, but he had a shipping line. We're talking in the 20s,
right?
Building and owning ships and taking goods and doing trading with export and import. You attack him for mail fraud. Elijah Muhammad during the 60s. This was prior to and around the time when Martin went sicking dogs on us and saying that, Black people can't do anything for themselves. He built the empire where Black people were trading and doing business and being independent. That's what they didn't like about him, because he said, Martin was saying integration.
Separation.
Elijah said separate. Malcolm said, the only thing I want integrated is my coffee. Okay. And they built a empire of financial, economic. And then what do? You go up to them for selective service. Oh my God. And then here come Yahweh ben Yahweh. He done took community, and not just Miami, he did this across the country. Right. And raised Black people to a wealth. These skyscraper hotels in downtown Atlanta. It's like, and then what do? You go after him for RICO. And the FBI was at the seat of each one of these. So that being said, we have a history that's a great history that shows when we come together and pool our resources, do for self, we can be successful. Now, how do we learn from that in the past? It's kind of like what Stephen Biko, one of the things that he said is that he didn't allow white liberals to join a part of the movement. He was not against them, but because it was like, we have to be able to do this for self, not allowed to infiltrate. We can have partnerships, but it's like, we got to do it for self. And each time we do that for self, it rises.
Indeed.
Yes, sir.
Anything?
Well, the greatness of what the Melba Yahweh and Yahweh has produced is the educational system. He created his own textbooks and everything that allow his students to become wise in all areas. So that's showing us as an example that, hey, it can be done. And that's something that needs to be done now. Because as we're seeing that the educational system is creating functionally illiterate students that are falling behind scholastically in all areas. So we have to do for self. And that's what needs to be done. Do your research, people. It's Black history. Find those unsung heroes and give them the kudos they deserve for the work they put in.
But I take that as you signing out at the same time. So, Minister.
Hey, we just want to welcome in the Black History Month. Like I say, everybody stay warm out there because it might not look like it. Oh, but we got some bears in the other rooms.
No, I mean, and well said. I love the show today. Please do receive the information that we gave today. Do your research on Black leaders in our community that have contributed to our community, and let's try to shine some light in on those individuals as well as your Martin Luther Kings, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, all the ones that we know about. Let's shine some light on the ones that we don't know about. All right. And from the host, I like to say peace and prosperity. And from Live Talk, we are out.
Thank you for watching Live Talk. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Talk Orlando. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit on the notification button so that you can see more videos like this. You want to join the show? Email us at livetalkorl@gmail.com. You can also follow the host on Facebook and Instagram at Arthur Jeremiah. And visit the website, thenoystore.com, to pick up your copy of The Spiritual Significance of a Name.